Well, we will get rolling here. We'll give folks, one more minute. And we will start with our quick fire call where we go around and just kind of talk about in a round robin fashion the different things that are going on with your just things in general. And then with regards to CBIT and some different outreach efforts and that kind of thing. And then we'll take a break. We do have I think it's a 4 or 5 question survey that we're going to do in between the 2 sessions, just to get some input from you all around some different topics and what's going on with you. And that'll help us just understand where things are at for you guys. And hopefully we can tailor our program to
recording in progress.
Best meet all your needs. So Zach, if you wouldn't mind just doing me a big favor and just taking down names of folks that are on the call, that would be awesome.
You got it.
Thank you so much. And with the quick fire portion of this call, it's something that we've been doing since the beginning of the CBIT program started. And we have our original liaisons, and we'll ask them to kind of chime in, and we'll let the newer partners kind of get up to speed with what we're doing. So kind of the first thing that we do is kind of go through and just talk about things that are Danny kind of calls it personal updates. And so if we can just go around and when I think personal, I think personal, but also perhaps personal within your organization. So different things that are going on. And I am going to go in order of my screen. And Rachel, you are in my upper left-hand corner, first spot. If you want to share with us what's going on, that would be awesome.
Sure. So if we're sticking with the more personal and within some of the work we're doing, Saranac Lake just had our winter carnival, so that was a busy time for us in the area, and successful as usual and fun. And the other kind of bigger ticket item is we have a village mayoral race. So as the chamber, we hosted a mayoral candidate forum, a virtual forum the other night, and had over 170 people attend, which was pretty good. And
that's awesome.
So those were a couple big things for us, not CBIT related.
And I'm sorry, Rachel, what did you host?
It was a virtual Meet the Candidates mayoral forum.
Awesome. Perfect. That's great to hear. Christy, you are kind of next in my little order. If you want to give us some personal updates, that'd be great.
I'm just going to jump in real quick and say EDC conference friends, if you all would mute on your windows, would be awesome.
Here, I muted you. You'll have to unmute yourselves to talk. Thanks, Zach.
So I just celebrated, I'm a leap year baby, my 12th and a half birthday last week. And my friends threw me a traveling hors d'oeuvre and poker run, and I won all the money, so that was good. Other than that, I just attended the New York State Economic Development Conference, which was really good. And we're starting to see some people want to participate in CBIT in Hamilton County, so I guess that's a good sign. Yeah,
that is a great sign. Great sign, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Matt, you are next on my little order here.
Personally, I just returned from vacation, which was wonderful. Nice and sunny and tropical and sandy. So sorry, those of you who didn't get away. But thankfully, I have an amazing team here at the chamber, and things did not skip a beat while I was gone. And we're extremely busy with planning numerous and many events, programs, a bunch of different services, expanding a lot of member benefits, focusing obviously on some CBIT work and our small towns, big opportunities work. But we're just extremely busy. I think I mentioned this before, and some of you can relate that during COVID, we kind of expected a slowdown of kind of business support and services that weren't directly being provided to businesses in existence. And that we thought, oh, geez, no one will want to open businesses during the COVID time. It has been busier than ever, which is awesome. And that's one of the things I enjoy most of my work. So I've been excited about that. And Erin's a busy bee with juggling 16 events and some other organizations events and some other membership programs that she's working on. And Kelly, our office administrator, has been extremely busy and finalizing some new member benefits and some technology we're going to be using. And then we have a new staff member, which we're excited about. Megan Bombara is now with us a couple days a week. She's been a great volunteer over the last year, and she is focused. She's basically our calendar of events and employment opportunities coordinator. So she's going to be focusing on those two aspects of our work.
Very nice. Very nice. And hey, Chad, I know that you're kind of new and kind of old, but I'm going to put you on the spot for AEDC, if you don't mind, to kind of give us a little bit of an update of maybe you and what's going on there.
Sure. Honestly, last week and into this week, there's not a lot going on as far as what's going on with all of us, because I think more than half the team is on vacation in one way or another, or like a day here and that kind of thing. But we do have some really good, I have some good projects that I'm working on. I think we have 2 loans that loan applications that will be going up soon. And I have 1 or 2 potential new ones that should be done in a couple weeks. And I know that Steve has some stuff that he's going to the board for, but other than that, I'm not 100%. Yeah, just some vacations and such.
And Chad, I know you can't give us specifics because it's confidential, but is it like new businesses that are the loan applications, or new businesses? That's great.
Yeah.
That is wonderful to hear.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of business plans where people are like, struggling with some things and that kind of thing. So it's kind of like, I don't know, helping them put the words that are in their head down on paper. That strategy. It's but on a personal note, good news, I have finished my doctoral data collection. So I'm done collecting data, and it's taken me almost a year for 9 people to interview.
Wow.
Yeah. But now it zooms. I write up the final report, and then most of it, once I'm done writing it up, which will be about 8 weeks, then I submit it, and then it's just one crew after another, and a chair, board member, and the publisher, and all that stuff. So most of the downtime that my doctorate would take is just waiting for reviews and approvals. Yeah. So other than that, there's, happy it's sunny, happy to be alive.
At least where you are, not where Matt is.
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah.
But wasn't he on vacation though?
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful.
Well, thanks.
Thanks. And Russ, you are next on my screen if you want to give us an update.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. It was great to see Christy and Jenna and Brittany at the EDC conference in Albany. It was fun to see people in person again. It's been a really long time to catch up a bit with them, so that was great. Other than that, we're just hard at work we have some loans as well. I'm also on the loan committee at AEDC, and we've seen some really good projects coming through our loan committee there. So there's a lot of activity. I've been meeting with people who are ready to invest and grow businesses, looking at buying businesses. So there's some positive things going on around that.
Very cool. That is awesome. And Rochelle, you are next.
So I've been in full swing planning our annual birding festival, which we are bringing back this year for the first time since 2019. So we have a lot of excitement around that. Also in the middle of planning our Maple Fest for our local 4th of July parade committee. does it as kind of a fundraiser every year. And we'll be holding that during the first New York State Maple Weekend, March 19th. And yeah, as Christy said, we've got some more businesses that are kind of being proactive in their transition and wanting to get a head start a few years ahead of when they're ready to retire. So hoping to get to work with them a little more closely.
That's great news. And I think that'll be kind of key to hopefully what we can do a little bit more outreach around is you may not be ready right now, but learning as much as you can now, even if it's 3-5 years down the line, just helps you get your ducks in a row, helps you understand the process. You don't have to say yes if somebody comes along and wants to buy your business, but just like anything, the more that you can kind of be part of it, involved in it, I think the better. So that is awesome. All righty, so now we will go through and the folks that I didn't ask to contribute, we will ask you to contribute next time as you get kind of a little bit more involved and perhaps have things that you can share and with all of us. So our next update is around outreach, what you're doing around CBIT outreach and things that you're doing to kind of promote CBIT and that kind of thing. And Rachel, we are back to you.
Sure. So one of the things we've been focusing on is within the chamber, we're doing a new member campaign and, obviously trying to get new members, but part of that is also reaching out to some members who maybe haven't been members for a while or haven't renewed, and making sure that our audience is aware of the services that we provide, including CBIT. So, sometimes I feel like we talk about CBIT a lot and we know what it is, and but actually a lot of people don't know what it is. They might see a little sign here or there or see an email, but don't really have a full understanding. So trying to just have some conversations about what it is and how the chamber is involved in the services that we can provide. And then with that, we're doing next week a business after hours, and it's kind of focused on this membership campaign and our new members and really providing people with the services that we offered. So we're going to have a little extra information about CBIT and making sure people know what it is. So that's kind of the outreach that we're focused on right now. Aside from that, I've just kind of been trying to, on a more regular basis, touch base with some of those folks who over the last maybe I don't know, maybe 2 years that have filled out that CBIT inquiry form and might be in the middle of the process. So I've just kind of been trying to keep a little more regular communication now that I have become more comfortable with the program. So that's what we've been doing. Thanks.
Well, and I totally, I 100% appreciate wanting to understand the process and the program more before you get the word out, because yeah, it's something you want to be comfortable with. So we can do more of that. Okay, thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciate that. Christy, you are next.
So Rochelle and I in our county, we have 2 new chamber directors that pretty much, well, we have one for sure and one coming on that are just learning their jobs right now. So once they get a little more comfortable in May, we're going to go out and have a direct sit down with them to try to get them to help us to promote the program, because I think in Hamilton County, being so far away from each other, that's really the only way it's going to work better for us is to have those other people out there who are familiar with the program that can explain it and then refer people to us. So that's really what we're going to concentrate on here in the next month, just familiarizing them.
Perfect. All righty, then we have Chad. Whoop, Chad.
What am I reporting? I'm sorry.
Just talk about if you're doing any efforts around CBIT outreach.
I have to be on. We haven't had a staff meeting in 2 weeks because of vacation, so I'm not sure what's happening.
And I didn't mean to put you on the spot because I know you're kind of new to this. So Victoria may know more. So my apologies on that.
No, it's fine. But now you know that I have no idea.
All right,
Sorry.
no problem. How about you, Matt?
Well, as I mentioned, things have been busy, and we've been busy in the CBIT front too. We are working with several clients, a couple who are public and a couple who are confidential. And then we've also working with a couple new possible new entrepreneurs that may be interested in either purchasing a business or purchasing the property and kind of a portion of the business, maybe not the actual business name and things. And you also have probably read that, there's been that formal announcement on the Silver Bay General Store. And we've been working with Paul since the CBIT conference, which has been nice. And we've been working with him pretty much on a monthly basis. And he's fantastic. He's doing a great job out there. Aaron and I will be going out to see him soon in person to schedule a grand opening and ribbon cutting celebration, which will be in coordination with ANCA and CBIT. So we're excited about that. We are planning to do another general CBIT press release and communication, which we've done in the past. And that's kind of helped with getting us some additional traction and interest in the program. I just think it's just like anything else. You got to continually remind people that the services, as Rachel mentioned, the services and programs are available right in your backyard. We'll be doing a lot of that in coordination with our Small Towns, Big Opportunities initiative. In the past, we've also connected directly with the real estate agents to educate them on the program, and it's been a little while since we've done that. So we're going to do that again, do some direct communication with them and ask them each to kind of come in and meet with us to talk about the program. Because oftentimes they're the first person talking to people who want to sell their business, because a lot of business owners haven't thought about the process ahead and things they need to prep for.
Yeah, and a lot of business owners own their building or property facilities as well. And yeah, I think that there is a pretty broad continuum in terms of the knowledge of realtors of the business transition process and how to sell a business versus how to sell a building. Yeah. And I think that might be an opportunity for us, is to work with realtors to perhaps do even something similar to what we're doing here for those, unlike Christy, who's obviously very versed in this, and Christy, you can chime in here. I do think that there is this continuum, and it's actually a question for you. Do you think it would be helpful to provide a similar training, to whether you guys do it locally or we do it, to provide some sort of training for realtors, or would that be
absolutely? Yeah, especially in the North Country, where a lot of the realtors aren't trained in commercial real estate, and kind of the different ways to sell it, and how you can just be helpful. I mean, most real estate agents just want to be helpful regardless on either side they're on. Yeah. So, and a new buyer it makes comfortable, and a seller also. So yeah,
I had an experience recently where a business owner referred me to the realtor who was representing the building, and I was really, the emphasis was definitely on the building,
yeah,
and not the business that was in the building. And so I just the language that they used and the focus and that kind of thing. So okay, cool, good to know that might be an opportunity.
I will know that we're lucky here in the Ticonderoga area. We have great real estate agents who are working closely with business owners on expanding past just the property and that packaging their business as a whole for sale. But I think hosting something where, we're talking to these businesses regularly and the real estate agents, but maybe collectively as a CBIT unit, we can invite all regional real estate agents in to come for a really brief presentation. Because I think sometimes too, while they hear it from, maybe the same people each time, to hear it from a collective group that, we're regionally working together on this and kind of educate them in that aspect will probably be a good idea. We're also trying to nail down a date for hosting the owner financing workshop. I I have been in touch with a couple of the panelists I'm planning to talk to, but of course, everyone's schedules are busy and one of them is a teacher. So I am still trying to nail down a date for that. And then Aaron and I have been talking about that as our networking events start to launch again, that we would like to have one of our partner agencies come and join us at those mixers to kind of highlight some of the services and programs available. And of course, CBIT would be one of the first ones that we'd invite to. So instead of us sharing about it, which we're doing regularly, have someone from ANCA come down and join us for that networking event and have a couple minutes to share with the group on the services and programs that are available right in their backyard.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And Matt, and Chad, I'll get you in one sec. I think the owner financing program is phenomenal because, as we've talked about, I know that when I bought my business, I had no idea that 80 to 90% of small businesses are sold with some component of owner financing. And I think, there's so many benefits to that in terms of opening up your potential pool of buyers. You'll get a potentially higher price. You'll sell your business faster. And so, yeah, that's awesome.
It's been working for us here with some of our transitioning businesses. So thankfully, we have great current business owners and, fantastic new entrepreneurs who are working together to, the owner financing is really working well.
Yeah, no, it is for sure. Chad, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, Matt mentioned having real estate agents and then kind of doing a mixer. And we've also discussed that there's a bunch of new people. I'm still relatively new in this region to some aspects of connectivity. But one thing that a lot of staff that have been around for a minute, they're more familiar with connecting with bankers as well. So I don't have any connection to any bankers, but it seems like all my other cohort do. So I just wonder if that may be a mixer of loan officers or something of that effect, if somebody thought that might be an interesting idea.
In terms of a financing option for, yeah, certainly I would say the more, and when we did our first sellers working group, we did bring a banker in to kind of share his it was a him at the time perspective. But yeah, that's.
I mean, even on our end, like I just don't have, like if sometimes I get clients that are like, well, do you know this? I don't know about banking stuff. I don't have a connection. Like I know Tony had so many connections at SBDC. It was crazy because he'd been in the business forever.
Yeah.
Same thing with Barbara. I just don't know how to even connect or where to start.
To different bankers.
Yeah.
Definitely utilize the chambers on that because we tend to have, I mean, I know I can say for us, we have a very well-established relationship with pretty much every financial institution.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. But yeah, certainly understanding the process and what bankers are looking for in terms of the business plan or the opportunity and things like that. Yeah, that's
because the niche I've been kind of put in is helping those who need help with their business plans to get it ready for a board. I have no problem doing that. But the front end of like, go apply at the bank first. These are some of the banks that you could apply to. Like those kinds of conversations, I don't even know where to start with.
Well, and so, kind of similarly, like if somebody's interested in buying a business, they won't pre-qualify you the way they will for a home. But if you at least start a dialogue, like I have a client right now who is looking to buy a business next summer. And the seller is my client, and I'm trying to work with them to have this potential buyer present her credit score, her personal financial statement, and some at least preliminary financials for the business so that a bank can say, there's a 50-50 shot, or hell no, this is never going to happen, right? Because then, in my opinion, the seller can, I don't want my seller to wait a year and then have it fall apart. So, and trying to understand the process from a banking perspective, because I think a lot of us, these deals take months, if not years, to put together. And as much as you can understand whether somebody is qualified to make this purchase as soon in the process as possible is definitely helpful. And we'll definitely talk about that as we go through. So
I agree, Kim, because we often with projects, whether they're existing businesses or businesses that are going to be open, we suggest start having preliminary conversations with the traditional financial institutions, so you can kind of get a sense of, is there even a possibility? What's the possibility? What are the percentage rates going to be? Because then we can also connect you with some of our other local and regional economic development partners if we're kind of getting a sense that maybe the traditional route's not going to be a possibility for you, or maybe a blend is going to have to be the way. We're lucky here in Ticonderoga, we have great local and regional funding sources. So in addition to our traditional financial institutions. So I'm sure, as most of you are aware, because you have the same thing, but those preliminary conversations often are very helpful because you can kind of get things done a little bit quicker that way.
yeah, no, I would absolutely agree. Thank you. Russ, you are next on my screen to share your CBIT outreach efforts.
Wrong button, sorry. Yeah, we continue to promote through our interactions with people. As I think a lot of these situations are coming to me. I haven't had to chase a lot of them. Word's getting out that we have resources for this. And so as people are talking to different stakeholders in their communities, they're referring people to us. And we've been meeting with a few different folks that have been looking at different options. Fortunately, we were able to get one of them to obtain owner financing from the seller, which worked out great. But we still see a lot of gaps there in terms of financing and being able to close these deals with the amount of collateral and capital that young entrepreneurs have available. So I continue to beat that drum. And I wanted to, I didn't get a chance to talk to the the new commissioner of ESD was at the conference, and I wanted to ask her about, that idea of, kind of trying to see what kind of state programs we could work on developing around that, because it is such a critical issue and is only going to get more critical going forward. So I had mentioned, I forget who I was talking to about I think it was Jenna, us collaborating as a CBIT team to make some recommendations to our stakeholders, whether through Common Ground or other avenues that we have that, and now that we're really kind of an established sort of official organization of experts on this topic, I feel like we have some clout to say as a group to our stakeholders, our leaders, that these are some things that we need to be taken seriously and we need to come up with some ideas for. So that's something I would encourage our team to maybe think about that a little bit in the next year, how we might be advocates for that. But so far we've got a good balance of our capacity and the number of people that are coming to us with these kind of needs. So we feel pretty good about that, and thankful for our other partners too.
Yeah, that's Russ, you make a really great point. A question that I have with regards to, is it that these young entrepreneurs have decent credit scores, but they just don't have whether it's personal wealth or collateral or whatever, that they just have, because of their youth, they haven't been able to establish that?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, or a lot of times, if you're 30, you're still trying to get a house. You're still trying to pay off student loans. You're not flush with cash, and because we have a limited market up here, it's not like people are sitting on huge piles of cash generally. So it's just a fact of reality that younger folks just don't have that kind of equity just sitting around, or if they do, they're utilizing it for something. So what I would see as a solution to that would either be something like an SBA guaranteed loan, or at some sort of SBA guarantee on business transition loans, up to maybe 50,000 or something. That would make sense for us, because it just needs to usually cover the goodwill and the sort of the owner's sense of value beyond the collateral, and or some sort of grant program. And again, they don't need to be huge grants. Even if they were 30 to 50,000, it would make a big difference in the deals that we looked at.
I know that that Danny is really working to try to develop a down payment assistance program and to do exactly that, to get a pool of funds available that are perhaps, I know one of the terms they use is kind of character-based lending versus kind of collateral-based lending. And definitely we want to pursue that more and look at that for sure.
And I know like AEDC and we both kind of have the same situation where we're a higher risk lender. And, you know, I remind my loan committee, and I know it comes up in AEDC's loan committee that, you know, we're here to take some risks and to do more character-based lending and to look at things beyond just the strict criteria a bank might look at. So far we've been successful at being able to do those loans at actually very reasonable interest rates for these folks. We really haven't upped the interest rate in proportion to the risk at times, because we really want these folks to be successful and not be overburdened. So that's one of the things that, you know, we're trying to look at it from a broader standpoint than just the metrics alone.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, very, very good point. All right, I think that is everybody on that piece. Then we're going to go around and just kind of talk about any and Matt, you kind of talked about this with Silver Bay, but Rochelle, if you just want to share with us any opportunities that might be out there that that have kind of come on the market or maybe going on the market, or significant progress with any perhaps transitions in your region.
So we have a business. I don't know how public they want to be with everything. I know I've reached out to you about them, Kim. That I think would be a great opportunity for somebody to take over. It's one of our larger businesses in the southern part of the county. I know a lot of our businesses in the county are actually selling. We have a gas station, I believe, that hopefully will be coming off the market soon. We don't have a ton of commercial opportunities right now, which is, you know, it's not a bad thing.
I realized somehow I missed you on the any outreach updates you want. I know that
I think Christy kind of covered it, so
that's probably why I missed you. Sorry. Okay,
that's okay.
Awesome. How about you, Rachel?
I don't think that I have any updates. I'm trying to think of any other sales or businesses on the horizon, and I don't have any at the moment.
Nothing. Okay, nothing perking.
Yeah.
All right, no problem. How about Christy? Oh, well, you're probably saying it's one and the same, right?
No, I actually have a question. It's just curiosity. Has anyone else, and I happened upon this through real estate, had anyone come to them and ask about buying gas stations in the Adirondacks? Because I have a guy that had me approach two people to buy their gas stations, and he's buying both of them, which is very interesting to me. And then he's buying other businesses like motels to house and bring his staff. And I'm just wondering if anyone else has had anything like that happen in the last like 4 months. Buddy? Okay, well, you might. He owns this gentleman owns some pilot truck stops, but he also owns a few Maravitos in the Adirondack Park, and he's just looking to buy gas stations.
Interesting.
Okay.
Anybody?
Well, let me know if you do.
Cool.
All right.
Alrighty. I think Russ, we're back to you.
Nothing to add.
Okay.
But that's very interesting, Christy. We'll be on the lookout.
Yeah, for sure. And Matt, I think you may have additional. I mentioned you spoke to Silver Bay.
Yeah. We definitely have some properties that are sold or probably will be selling. But as far as an actual business transitioning. The most recent, certainly Silver Bay. We do have one of the businesses that are part of the program. We do have someone who's interested in the property, but not necessarily the business. So it's you know, as you all know, in this economic development world, things are very interesting. So.
And is the total value of the business largely the real estate? Is there a lot of goodwill for the business or not so much?
There's two examples. One of them, well, both of the one particular possible probably property that might be selling, there's certainly goodwill value for the business, but the business owner is now kind of not sure if they want to sell the business aspect and just the property. So they've kind of transitioned their thinking process. Yeah. And the other one, which is Libby's Bakery Cafe in Ticonderoga, the current owner is actually very, very, very ill and probably won't be, unfortunately, with us much longer. Oh. So that business itself has closed, and we're trying to get someone to come into the property. So I mean, every situation obviously is a little bit unique, but so one is a health issue, and for that property that will probably hopefully sell, and then the other one is the business originally wanted to sell as a package, but now it's kind of thinking they just want to sell the property and not their business, and want to do their business kind of in a different way. So. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, it's dynamic for sure. Dynamic for sure. Cool. So just the next kind of round robin, we've been at this for a while. Just any general comments about the program, what we're doing, just anything that's on your mind that you want to share with us. Why don't we go with you, Rachel? Oh, Donna.
I just wanted to chime in on some of the stuff that Matt was talking about. We've kind of tag teamed some of these things where, like, Silver Bay was a really great transition of that business, but Thai Alliance was able to just recently give them a loan from our entrepreneurs fund because they found themselves a little bit cash poor after the transition, and in order to be able to really properly prepare for their first summer season, they just need a little bit of cash flow. So our entrepreneurs fund lends up to $20,000 at a pop, and they just need a little bit of a bridge to get them through into the next season when they have real good cash flow. So it's just a good example of how we can work together on different things to make somebody successful.
Yes.
Sorry, Matt.
I was just going to say that, what I mentioned earlier, that we're lucky here in Ticonderoga because we have local and regional funding sources that are outside of traditional options. And, the Alliance being a local development corporation, they're able to offer these funds locally to businesses, which has been fantastic.
Yeah, and we have, because we're not a bank or a state funded institution or anything, we can create some loan conditions like AEDC where they're, although I think we have even more flexibility on what the terms are. So we don't even have to have them repay anything until we decide they're in a position to do so, or things like that. So we can just provide that little bit of bridge for somebody with some flexibility. The other thing is that related to Libby's Bakery, we're both working on trying to find a next tenant for that building. And when we have a lot of people working together on it, I think we're going to be successful in finding something to go in there. So
awesome.
That's all.
Yeah, and that it is cash flow in so many of our businesses are so seasonal, right? Where they make 80% of their revenue from June to August, or whatever, and the deficit in the winter. And I think it's a reason why a lot of businesses don't make it. So yeah, that those options are available is awesome.
And related to the Libby's restaurant thing, we can put together a package for somebody who wants to go in there where we give them an entrepreneur's loan to help them just get started so that they don't have to build that into the rest of their financing, especially if they're, younger and have those collateral issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
So having discretionary funding is a good little thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Rachel, any comments you want to share that we haven't shared?
Yeah, I just had actually a question. How was the matchmaking event?
Well, thank you for asking, because I was going to finish this round with that. So,
Okay.
yeah, no, happy to. We had 12 businesses participate, which was great. And we had, I think we had 35 aspiring entrepreneurs express interest. But this is the rub with this whole thing. 35 entrepreneurs, but we end up with 12 businesses, and finding the business in the right location at the right price and the right category or industry is hard. We had, I think, some very meaningful conversations that occurred where entrepreneurs and buyers said, I want to meet with that business. And so while we had far fewer perhaps meetups than we did when we did the virtual conference, I think the conversations that went on were far more meaningful and had longer, a much greater chance of going the long haul. The feedback was really positive, and the way, because I have to deal with the potential perceived disappointment where these sellers get ready, and we tried to minimize the amount of work that the sellers had to do, but we just wanted them to show up. But again, this kind of perceived disappointment of participating in this and not getting anywhere. But similar to our virtual conference that we did last winter, I had a number of sellers that used it as the deadline to get their valuation done, to get their sell sheet put together, to get the package that they need to actively market their business. And so that was as much value. And then what I actually asked them to do during the matchmaking session is I said, if you are not engaging with a potential buyer, use this opportunity to really think through a strategic approach to marketing your business. And then we can work together to the extent that you want me to help you to execute on that. So I think by and large, the feedback was good. It's just hard. It's just hard finding those matches. Dan, you had raised your hand.
Yeah, and this is more of a process question, actually. Is this group here more for folks that have been in the program and are actively working with ANCA and the CBIT program? Or is this open to folks who are being trained for Train the Trainer? Because I kind of feel like I'm in the wrong place, because it seems like everybody's sort of established and kind of knows what's going on.
Okay, sorry, you jumped in late. So we have CBIT liaisons that have been part of the program basically since the beginning. And then recently we have had an outreach to folks like yourself so that we can perhaps empower a greater audience to help facilitate the business transitions. And so this is kind of it's actually the second, but it's the first quick fire call that we have with everybody. And I asked the folks that have been with us for quite some time to share what's going on, to allow you all to get up to speed. And then during the next session, we'll call on all of you as you kind of get comfortable with the community and maybe start doing things with regards to business transitions and that kind of thing.
Got it. So this is kind of a window into what we can expect as we become more established. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you for the context. I appreciate it.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah. But yeah, we'll as soon as we kind of finish up with this exchange of ideas and such, we'll jump into the training where we'll do getting you all up to speed. So thanks for the question. Christy, any general comments you want to share with us about CBIT or anything? Okay, nothing. Kate, I'm going to engage everybody at this point, actually, just because whether you're at the beginning or you're down the line, any thoughts or comments you want to share? Kate, you're muted.
Sorry, too much technology too early. Only that this is useful to me to hear other people's experiences as they go through it. As I mentioned to you yesterday in our one-on-one about the case study, I'm just wondering how potential clients find me and how to be useful. So that's where I'm at.
Cool. And hopefully as we go through this and hear different outreach ideas and ways to engage with the local business community that's interested in transitioning, it'll become a little more.
Yeah. The other thing I'd say out loud is that especially hearing some of these other folks' experiences, is that it sounds like regionally there's some strength in teams. And what I'd say is that everybody down here on the Fulton Chain of Lakes is new to this. And maybe there's some support or some structure that we can get around making sure that the people who are involved with CAA or I'd say more directly connected to the businesses know how to find people like me and Steve who, can run the spreadsheet, but we don't know who needs us.
Perfect.
Constant promotion over and over and over and over.
Cool. And so EDC conference, you are next on my screen. Any general comments or questions or anything you want to share? Don't think they can hear me. I'm going to take that as a no. Steve, you are next on my screen. Any kind of comments or general whatever?
Not really at this time, no.
Okay. Alrighty, thanks. Donna, I guess you shared my comments. If you have any other comments you'd like to share?
Yeah, the only thing else, we just have one other business that's kind of a challenge, and we're sort of trying to pull the community in as much as possible on helping to get some succession for our local dentist. He's overdue for retirement, and I think for a while he just, and still sort of on some level has trouble getting his head around actually retirement. It was his father's practice before it was his, and has a great deal of sentimental legacy to it. And so now he's pretty much got his head around it, and has one of his children helping him with that process. So but it's been an interesting challenge. He's an interesting character to begin with, and having a little trouble figuring out how to not just let it fade away. And we desperately need to keep that dentistry in our community here. The next dentist is about 45 miles away. So.
Wow.
Donna, if you can get him to fill out the online form for CBIT, that he'll get at least a public listing on their website.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just, maybe we can help him, again, kind of do a valuation for his business, and get the word out about the fact that the practice is available. Professional medical practices, be they dental or health or whatever, are tougher because, at least that's my experience, in terms of being bought, but in potentially transitioning into a job, if you will, for a potential dentist. Yeah, I would love to help you figure out how to do that.
Yeah, and we've actually had some pretty good success on outreach. They've got some discussions going on right now. We did sort of a very targeted Facebook campaign that included some geographies, ADA regional stuff. The military, oddly enough, looking for people who wanted to retire from military dentistry and transition to here, and sort of combining that with the come live in the North Country, live a better life in the North Country version. Out of that, we actually got an inquiry that we're still working for an orthodontist to come to the community, sort of piggybacking on that. So it's kind of interesting, and there's stuff churning. But we'll definitely need to connect with CBIT on it. He's done evaluation stuff. We kind of led him through that process a little bit.
Okay, cool.
And we did send him the CBIT info, Donna. So maybe you following up, he'll get him to follow up on it.
Yeah, I think I pretty much have to do it for him. It's not,
Isn't that like, I really want to sell my business, but I can't fill out a form.
He's a squirrely little dentist, and getting him to actually do the rest of the stuff is just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So we have to do it for him.
Yeah. Well, we can. Okay. I think, let's see, where are we at? Russ, any comments? No, we're good. Cool. Dan, any comments you want to share? You kind of shared your 2 cents, but if you have anything else. It appears that Dan has frozen. Matt? We're good? Okay.
Good, yeah.
Nice. Chad? Anything good? Rochelle, anything you want to share? Cool. All righty. One thing that Danny wanted as part of this is kind of lessons learned from buyers and sellers. And I'm going to ask you all to, for our next sessions, consider somebody that might be willing to come and spend 5 or 10 minutes with us as a group to share their personal experience of buying or selling a business and some lessons learned or best practices. Since I didn't do that for this session, I thought I might share my own, only because I bought a business and then sold a business. And my lessons learned were, one, absolutely use your resources. Use every resources that is around you, because it's uncharted waters, and every person that can help you just makes it a smoother process. Because I think I've shared the fact that I overpaid for my inventory, and a resource that I had at one point along the way showed me that I shouldn't pay what I did, and I didn't see it. And so I didn't circle back and use my resources and perhaps share my business plan to a greater extent with that person. So I ended up overpaying for my inventory, which stunk, but that falls in the live and learn. If you are a buyer, and this is something that we'll talk about today, the price for the business needs to work for both the seller and the buyer. When I bought my business, the seller wanted twice what I paid for the goodwill. And I went to the seller with a cash flow projection that just showed that the price was too much. Like nobody would ever finance it. It wouldn't work for me as a buyer. And so as you work with buyers and sellers, just finding a price that works for both the buyer and the seller. When I bought my business, the seller did not offer any seller financing. Huge mistake. Make sure, to the extent possible, that the seller is invested in the buyer's success. Because what actually ended up happening is there were 2 locations. I bought one. The seller enticed a lot of my customers to go to his store because he wasn't necessarily invested in my success. And so just, yeah, well, that was my, my lesson learned. And then on selling, I did offer seller financing. It is not really secured with anything, which is except a whole stack of legal documents. It's not And I think I could have gotten more creative with identifying collateral to secure the loan. So just get creative, right? I mean, it's whatever the buyer has that could be listed as collateral. Yeah, that's that. So, okay, so that's my lessons learned. And again, I'll reach out to all of you because I would love to have other folks come on. Again, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes to share their insights on, because to me, that's the where the rubber hits the road, is where we have those folks that come along into our program. We are going to jump into the training portion of the program. And yeah, well, unless anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, we're going to jump right in. Cool. All righty, train the trainers, welcome. I have Zach here with me, our CPR outreach coordinator, and then there's me. This is the overall program for our 9 sessions together. Today, we are going to do a quick review. And I say quick, I don't really want it to be quick. We have 9 sessions together. It's more important to me that we understand the content. And if it means that we need to push some topics back, then that's what we'll do, because the valuation is probably the toughest thing to wrap your head around. And I want everybody to understand it to the extent that they want to. I will be available for you as a resource as much or as little as you need me. And you may be able to engage with a client and do the entire valuation process yourselves, which would be great. You may be just doing the normalizing of the expenses and then I get involved. But I'm here and you guys can use me as you want to or don't want to. We are going to do our certificate of completion for those folks that do 7. And hopefully that'll be a nice thing to share with clients, that kind of thing. Put your small business owner hat on, because we are still in the portion of the training where I am engaging with you and presenting as if you own a small business. So this is how I engage with our sellers working groups. I think the profiles, I don't know if you have or haven't, but hopefully you picked one up. And I'll talk about it in a little bit, and I sent it out in the email. I am available in working sessions to walk through those case studies and how we create valuations for those different business profiles that either you picked up from elsewhere, or maybe you have your own business, or you had your own business, or the profiles that I shared with you. We're going to do a quick review of session 1. I'm actually going to engage with all of you, and I'm not going to lie. For anybody that has participated in the chamber webinars on digital marketing, they've done a great job of engaging with participants in a different fashion than I have been. I've been using polls, which I think are good, but they like using just the chat feature. So I'm going to try that out and see how that goes. I copy unabashedly. We're going to go through validating the valuation. So making sure that it's a number that works for both the buyer and the seller, because as we've seen and discussed, the #1 reason why small businesses don't sell is unrealistic expectations on the part of the seller. And that's just not good for our communities, because often, and I've seen it happen, sellers have this price, the business sits, they get frustrated, something happens, and they just end up liquidating the business. And so I understand that, and I've had this happen twice recently, where sellers have what, in my opinion, are unrealistic expectations around the price, and it's a very delicate conversation. And anyway, creating an effective sell sheet, different avenues to market your business, and then we'll talk about the work group sessions. So from our, oh God, I don't know that I can see the chat when I'm in here. How do I see? Oh, I guess I should have vetted this a little bit better. So I'm just going to do it like this. What is the most salient point you took away from our first session? And hopefully I can see that. Oh, here we go. So what is the most salient point that you all have taken away from our first session? And you can type those into the chat. Just let me know your thoughts. what resonated for you. I know it's been a while, but we went through quite a bit of quite a number of topics, and everything from valuation, yeah, the valuing a business. Great. If there's anything specific with regards to valuing the business, we started, I guess that was the largest portion of what we talked about was valuing a business. And going around, we talked about sellers' discretionary earnings, seeing the spreadsheets. That's, yeah, what I have heard is that having the tools to be able to go through and do the exercises, the breadth of considerations and what to be realistic. Thank you. Only 20%. Yeah, that's kind of a sobering statistic for sure. And that's why we are here, is to increase that number, because as we've said on a couple of different or said a couple of different times, those businesses close, and that's just, you know, obviously it hurts our communities. Sellers' discretionary earnings, understanding that's awesome. Cool. How about any other key learnings that you took? I think we're kind of going through that. How about any topic that you feel like we need to go through in a little bit more detail? Because it's kind of complicated stuff and a little bit tough to wrap your head around. But the label of discretionary rather than judgmental word for owning take money out of business. Yeah, I mean, and one of the perks of owning a small business is the ability to run discretionary items through your business and calling them out. I had a conversation, Kate and I worked together yesterday, and we talked about it, wrapping your head around this term, seller's discretionary earnings. It's the earnings from the business, the cash flow, plus all of the stuff that you run through at your discretion. And we'll go through that in a little bit more detail here in just a moment. We'll re-examine it. I just talked about this, the different reasons why businesses don't sell. Obviously unrealistic expectations on the part of the seller, lack of preparation on both the part of the seller and the buyer, which I think we're addressing here. And then there's some other things that we can't really address here. Here is our selling process, and we are going through this in quite deep detail. The first part was building your team. And as I reference it, use your team and use your team wisely. Engage with your accountant in particular out of the gate, and because that person can really help you with helping with the valuation, with figuring out your asset allocation so you minimize your tax liability, things like that. Anonymous, that's a choice that you'll need to make around whether you want to take your business to market confidentially, which obviously makes it much more difficult to market your business, but then the impact on your business is much less. Versus full disclosure, you can let the world know, but depending upon the kind of business you have, it could be more or less detrimental. A business that's really, really reliant on the owner for success is a tougher business to sell openly because that person's so critical. Or if you only have a handful of customers, that might get spooked if you're going to sell your business versus an organization that has many, many customers. The valuation, we're going to dig in on this just a little bit more. Can we print slides from the presentation? Or can we share the overview of selling crowd? Oh yeah, certainly. And I can share the slides with everybody. So yeah. The valuation, you're going to value the whole part of the business, all the different components. It can be complicated, and there are definitely complicated ways to do it. Our approach is a kind of Main Street mom and pop fair market value approach to valuation, establishing, as I've said 100 times, a price that works for both the seller and the buyer. These are the different components that need to be valued. The goodwill, that's the intangible stuff, that's the trickier part to value. Inventory, the stuff you sell. Some businesses are going to have more than others. Furniture, fixtures, and equipment is all the stuff you use in the course of running your business on a day-to-day basis. And that number could be huge if you're a heavy equipment kind of service provider, or it might be quite small depending upon what you do. There's the other stuff. If you have a high value e-commerce site, that might be valued separately. You may have contracts that are worth something, but you're going to come up with a price. We are valuing the business separate from the real estate. Even if the business owner owns the real estate, even if they do or don't pay rent, they may pay above market rent, they may pay the owner, you may pay below market rent. We need to extract the business from the real estate and establish a value for the business itself. Do the goodwill valuation. We use these numbers that we're becoming more and more familiar with. Obviously, revenue is quite familiar. That's your gross receipts. But this idea of seller's discretionary earnings and then applying this industry-specific multiplier to it. The seller's discretionary earnings, that's the total financial benefit a new owner could be expected to derive from the business. And we do it by adding these add backs. Let's just take kind of a quick review. We have our net income when we add depreciation back in, because that's a non-cash item that gets us to, and amortization, if you happen to have amortization of, say, for example, something like goodwill, that gets you to our cash flow number. Then we need to add back in the items that, whether they're run through the business or they're not run through the business, has absolutely no bearing on the success of the business. They are run through at the owner's discretion for their benefit. Things like automobiles, right? I definitely ran automobiles for my business. I didn't run life insurance, but I have a number of clients that run their own personal life insurance through their business. Legit, but it's for their benefit, has no bearing on the business. Different memberships and that kind of thing. Additionally, we get to add back one-time expenses that don't recur. So in this instance, a business owner built a new website that cost $2,000. That's a one-time expense. We back that out. And this is the resulting, you can see how the seller's discretionary earnings is, whatever that is, $4,800 more than the cash flow. And that seller's discretionary earnings number, we then apply an industry specific, or it could be the level of the seller's discretionary earnings. It's kind of a little bit of both, but we apply the specific multiplier that gets us to our valuation of the goodwill. The multipliers are industry specific. Bigger businesses are perceived to be less risky. They have a higher multiplier. Our small businesses that we tend to work with tend to be riskier with lower sellers' discretionary earnings numbers, and they have a lower multiplier. This is just if we just look at the value or level of sellers' discretionary earnings, here is a multiplier table that we could use. We have our revenue and sellers' discretionary earnings numbers. We bring that number down, apply the low multiplier. So in this instance, the low multiplier is 20% of revenue, and it's a 3-year average of revenue, gets us to that 107. The high of 30% gets us to 161. Similarly, if we use the multipliers for sellers' discretionary earnings, we have the 67,000 and change. We apply the low multiplier of 1.5 to get to 101.9, the high multiplier of 2.5 to get to almost 70,000. Now you'll notice this is a heck of a range, a $91,000 range, right? And this is where it gets to the idea that it's an art more than it is a science, and we need to validate that valuation. Hey, Donnie, you had a question?
Yeah, on the the multipliers are those tied to, are they just tied to revenue level, or are they tied to industry or the business type at all?
They're very industry specific. And
where do they come from?
so there are different organizations that create these multiplier value guides.
Mm-hmm.
What we tell clients and what I tell clients, if I don't have one already, I refer them to the SBDC, because the SBDC can get them their industry specific multiplier guide.
And is that regionally based as well? Like, something in our region would be valued much less than something in another region.
They are not regionally based, but this is where the process that we're going to go through to validate the valuation kind of comes in.
Okay.
Seller's discretionary earnings is the best way to value a small business, because I had $1 million business that made 50K. Maybe it was a little higher than that, but it was like stunning to me how low the seller's discretionary earnings was, because they didn't run their business very effectively. In my mind, that means there's opportunity for a new owner, but you have to value the business based on what it's done historically. Whereas if you have $1 million business and somebody runs it super effectively and profitably, and your seller's discretionary earnings is 157,000, right? There should be benefit to the seller for that. So we do, you will very often end up with a range, and that's a big difference. What did I say? Okay, just so that we talk about these other components that need to be valued, let's just briefly talk about inventory. In some instances, inventory is going to be a very large portion of the purchase price. I had a retail establishment that had $1 million in inventory, and they did like 1.1 in revenue. I mean, it's one turn, you call it, and it's inventory that they've built up over the years. Obviously, a lot of it's dated, and it's clearly not inventory people want to buy. It needs to be heavily discounted in order to sell it. And you need to agree on an approach to valuing the inventory as part of your negotiation. Because as we've discussed, it's not uncommon to sign a contract and not actually close on a business for months. And so figuring out how you're going to value that inventory is important, and it needs to be documented. In some instances, you may have fewer high value items, in which case you may need some outside consult. Very often it's just a mishmash of a bunch of inventory. Sometimes there's too much inventory to validate the valuation, in which case the seller needs to be willing to heavily discount that inventory, or they need to sell it off before the business is sold. Here is an approach to how you might, this assumes that a seller has this level of detail in your inventory. I had a bike shop. I knew when my bikes came in. I knew when different apparel came in, and you can go through and assign kind of a criteria such as this that you'll agree to, and at the close you do an inventory, and this is how you get. Or it's very possible you have 200,000 on the books in inventory, and you're going to value that inventory at 130,000. And as long as it doesn't drop below 130,000 on the books, everybody's good. So it is a piece that gets negotiated as you go through the process. Similarly, with furniture, fixtures, and equipment, it's a very similar situation in that it may be a large portion of the purchase price. It may be a small portion. It depends. go through and itemize your furniture, fixtures, and equipment. It may be, you may have items that need their own line, if you will. If you have high value items that are used in the course of running your business, those items should be called out. But you can see here, like office furniture just gets kind of glommed together as a single line item. And all of this will be negotiated and potentially in excruciating detail, but it's all part of the process. So you've gone through and you've established a range for the goodwill of your business. You've gone through and you've said, you know, the high on my inventory could be here 460, the low could be 280. And you've established a range. Another piece that you want to take into consideration in that is the asset allocation. And we'll talk about that a little bit in our next session, but it's the tax implications of how these different components of the value of your business are allocated. The tax if it's good for the seller, it's bad for the buyer from a tax liability perspective. And so it's very entity specific, as in an S Corp different from a C Corp, different from an LLC. It matters how long you've owned the business. There are a number of different criteria, but we'll get into that. So anyway, hold on. Where's if I had I guess it's further on. Okay, so you have a range, and how do we validate that valuation? Like, what does it mean to validate the valuation? You guys can put into your little chat boxes. So, you know, you have a range and we want to validate the valuation, which means what? Give it a couple more seconds. Okay. Oh, nice. All right. If everybody did a valuation, if 10 people did, how similar would they be? Yep, that's a good one. A sanity check, identifying that the range, identifying within that range which the value is. Yep. Cool. Yeah, all of those things. In essence, it's making sure that the valuation that you've established works for both you as the seller and for the buyer. That it's not, and I've seen this a lot where a seller is told that, and I have a client right now, that their business is worth $800,000. And the seller's discretionary earnings are like 40. And we'll go through and see how those numbers just don't work, and how we go through the process to make sure that it is a number that works for everybody, that you can potentially sit down with a buyer, walk them through this and say, I think I have this, yes. So a buyer is likely, because we've talked about that buyers have scraped together some funds to be able to buy a business. Hopefully, they're going to have a lot of debt in order to buy this business. So they need to be able to make those debt payments, they need to be able to pay themselves a reasonable amount for their efforts. And then hopefully there's a little bit left over to be able to invest in the future of the company. And that means there has to be enough cash flow. So here's the one. So we have Beverly's Bike Shop, high valuation at 852, low valuation with all these at 471. So let's take a look at whether or not this valuation works, depending upon the financing. So here is obviously it's a very abbreviated summary of what the expenses and resulting seller's discretionary earnings might look like. 137,000 actually, that's a decent number. But let's take a look at the financing scenario that somebody might need to go through, because again, the chances of somebody coming along with all cash or 50% cash are pretty slim. So we have our, I gotta get this thing out of my way, 852,000 was the high valuation on this bike shop. We're going to assume a minimum down payment of 20%. That means that we're leaving 682,000 and change that needs to be financed. In this instance, these will be short-term loans in the scheme of things. So the terms are going to be 6% over 7 years. 5 to 7 years is a pretty typical range on financing for things like furniture, fixtures, and equipment, inventory. The goodwill kind of becomes the wild card to see if it cash flows, but we'll talk about that further down the line. But we're assuming a monthly payment of almost 10 grand, which means a annual debt service of almost 120,000. And when we back that out from 137,000, that doesn't leave a whole lot for the buyer. I can't imagine anybody that would be willing to make that kind of an investment for $17,000. So let's go through a similar exercise at the low valuation of 471. We have the similar calculation of seller's discretionary earnings. In this instance, we're only financing the 471, which means, I'm sorry, the valuation is 471, 94 down payment, 377 financed. Now we're only looking at 66,000 in annual debt service, which means that the buyer is left with 71,000. I would think that's a much more palatable scenario, and it will probably end up somewhere in between. But these are all the things that get negotiated, and finding a starting point that is within the realm of working for everybody is important, in my opinion. Yeah, I think what you as a seller need to determine as you decide about how you're going to go to market, what is your best case scenario? And your priorities obviously are a big part of this. Are you interested in getting out of this business sooner rather than later because you have illness in your family or some other scenario that really necessitates that you sell this business? Or are you really interested in top dollar, in which case you're willing to wait 5, however many years for somebody to come along? The other piece is, if you are willing to offer owner financing, what is the minimum amount that you are willing to accept at the close? So that is cash in your pocket to feel comfortable moving forward. And understanding those numbers before it gets emotional, and it does, is important. All righty. So we've been through this a couple of times. Does anybody have any comments? And just, I have set up 2 working sessions. One is tomorrow. I'll tell you at the end. It's tomorrow at some point, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, something. And then I have one set up for Tuesday where we can go through those profiles that I've shared with you, or financials that you have, to actually go through in detail exactly how I would engage with a client to do the valuation, and how you might engage with a client to start to normalize their expenses. All righty, on to sell sheets. So a sell sheet is basically a resume for your business. And similar to a resume, I think it's on the next slide. Oh yeah, so back to, 20 to 30% of businesses actually sell. You do evaluation, you put a sell sheet together, and it really helps just create a foundation of your marketing. What I've heard from sellers is by getting a valuation done and putting a sell sheet together, it's a huge relief and gives them tremendous confidence in order to be able to feel like they can actively market their business for sale. It also, by showcasing different opportunities and assets, it can help you validate your valuation. Bear with me here, I got a message. Is Anka using a professional to do evaluations? It seems it would be good to have a resource for us to utilize after we meet with the business and get them started on what. Well, I don't know if I'm professional, but I am your resource to go through and do the valuations. I've been doing it with a bunch of businesses at this point. As I mentioned, you can go through and normalize the expenses, and then I'm happy. And Matt, maybe if you get on one of the calls, and I'm happy to do this one-on-one with you. If you're not able to make it those, we literally go through, normalize the expenses of any of the kind of case study businesses and apply the multipliers, establish the valuation, and go through the process of validating the valuation. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a certified valuation person. The valuations that we do are fair market valuations. If you have a situation where as part of an estate, a business needs to have an official IRS sanctioned valuation that's then used for gifting or inheritance and that kind of thing, then you need to pay $5,000 or $10,000 for a valuation. But if it's just a fair market valuation, so we can get a business on the market and such, then what we do. These are these rule of thumb valuations that we do. Yeah, that was, now I can't remember his name. I'll come up with it. Yeah.
Peter Pappas. Peter Pappas.
Peter, there we go. Peter Pappas. Yep. I engage with Peter on a regular basis if I'm stumped by something. And yeah, he has tremendous, and I don't even know if he's like a certified valuation person, but yeah, he's a fabulous resource for sure.
Yeah, I thought that was the case, but I wanted to just make sure everyone was understanding that you do have expertise in this field and that you also have, Peter kind of at our access if needed.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And I reach out to other certified people as I need to make sure that we're on the straight and narrow. All righty. Okay, so similar to a resume is not a list of job descriptions of every job you've ever had, listing everything you ever did. A resume is how you left a business or a position better than you found it. It showcases the things that you did that had impact on an organization. Similarly, a sell sheet doesn't include every bit of information. The intent of a sell sheet is to get to create enough interest in a buyer to reach out to you as a seller and say, wow, this is a business I want to learn more about. Very often an aspiring entrepreneur or a buyer doesn't know what kind of business they want to buy. Myself included, I still have a corporation to start a child care center. I did not start a child care center. I bought a ski bike and board shop. So I can't think of really two dissimilar types of businesses, but it shows that the opportunity is important. And some buyers may be very specific on the types of businesses they want to buy, but they're often as interested in identifying a business that shows promise, has opportunities, and that kind of thing. And you want that sell sheet to entice a potential buyer to reach out. The sell sheet, like, there's both a sell sheet and then there's something called a selling memo, which is like, it's practically a business plan. And you can decide when you want to share different information with buyers. One of the big things with the sell sheet is deciding about anonymity. And you can still create a sell sheet, you can still share it, and we'll talk about ways that you can incorporate that anonymity into your sell sheet. So here are the different categories that are included in a sell sheet. Here they are. I'm not going to go through this in like insane detail because I have some pretty good guides that walk you through it, but I want to go through and just kind of highlight some of the more important aspects of the sell sheet that are more likely to create interest on the part of a buyer. The headline: so much of the marketing that is done these days is in the form of online opportunities. And so the headline is basically your subject line of an email. Like, we get tons and tons of emails. You want that headline to create enough interest. Kind of fair to better headlines: 15-room motel versus growing Adirondack motel with high profitability and expansion opportunities. And you can kind of read, whoops, sorry about using more quantifiable adjectives to, again, create a more vivid picture of what the business looks like. The tagline is similar to the email. When you mouse over an email, it gives you that little snippet about what's in the email. This is the similar to that. Again, just you want to entice someone to. So we don't need to go through these. Location, definitely want to include the location. If you are marketing your business anonymously, it could be Italian restaurant in Clinton County, or some such way to delineate where the business is, but without disclosing such detail that somebody will know just through the course of deduction what the business is. Business description, again, pretty straightforward, but the important thing, similar to a resume, is to include quantifiable metrics around things that are important to a potential buyer: growing revenue, improved profitability margin, profit margins, and other such, hugely loyal customer base, loyal employees with long tenure, things that are again kind of quantifiable and an asset to the business. Future potential, blah blah blah. We'll go through that in a second. And this is just some words and language that you can use within the course of your business description. The financials are, I've heard, and I have experience with clients that don't want to disclose any financials in their sell sheet, and clients that are full disclosure with all of their financials in their sell sheet. What I will say is I believe you need to disclose something that indicates the size of the business, whether it's your revenue, it could be your cash flow, that kind of thing. Because if I'm looking for a $50,000 business, I don't want to waste anybody's time even beginning a conversation with somebody that has a $5 million or $500,000 business. So that's just kind of important there. The financials, it's shown that the more you share, the more interest you'll get. We'll go through some of these in a little more detail. as we kind of talked about, you want to start with your best case scenario, right? Because that's your best case scenario. And then consider the fact that people want to feel like they won with negotiations. You do want to leave a little bit of room for that negotiation. And as we talked about, if you're going to hold paper, think about how much you're willing to hold paper for. Your asking price is your total valuation. I think we just covered all of this. So here are some offers. You, in the financial portion of your sales sheet, can, or you don't have to, reflect the fact that you're willing to offer seller financing. And here are just some examples of how sellers spell out very clearly what they are willing to do with regards to owner financing. You can be this specific or you don't have to. It's entirely up to you. And what else do we have here? Oh, revenue. So revenue can be kind of tricky. If your revenue is growing, obviously you want to showcase the fact that it's growing. If it's flat, you can use kind of an ish kind of number. If it's decreasing, you can either list your most recent revenue, you can be a little bit vague about it. It's all around, again, this idea of positioning. It's very possible that your business maybe isn't doing what it once did because you're out of gas, and you're still in your business because you don't know how to get out of your business. And maybe you used to do X, or you used to provide a certain service that you don't anymore. But there's tremendous opportunity. Your business still, even if revenue is decreasing, there's still maybe tremendous opportunity with your business. And we'll talk about the opportunities that are here. We're starting to get low on time, so we're just gonna, yeah, seller's discretionary earnings, we've talked about that. The FF&E, I think we went through that. You can include the FF&E in the asking price. You can say it's extra, it's really up to you. We've been through this. Inventory, similarly, real estate, you may list, and I think yeah, so here is an instance where we have a florist that is being offered for $750,000. The business alone is only $150,000. So if you're not interested in buying the real estate, you just want the business, you can offer it there. And then you'll see here they have another listing that just showcases the business, but then notes that there is additional real estate included. So it's just how you want to present the business. Here's how, yeah, an example of how you might present this is just the asking price, revenue, cash flow, what the furniture, fixtures, and equipment it's included, but the inventory and real estate are not. Employee information, this is just, pretty straightforward. Is it seasonal? Do you have long-term employees? Do you engage with 1099 types of employees? Facilities, don't list, like, I see where where perhaps a realtor who is not experienced in selling business lists in excruciating detail the dimensions of the facilities and this, that, and the next thing. Just showcase what is the greatest strength of your facilities and why, what do you want to share with potential buyers? Competition, definitely want to talk about your competition, how you're similar, what your advantage is over the competition in the area. Yeah, and this is just kind of an example of how you can highlight how you're better than your competition. So growth and expansion opportunities, in my opinion, is one of the single most important categories to really showcase when you're listing your business for sale. The analogy that I use is when somebody buys a house, they're like, oh yeah, I kind of like this house, but oh, I'm definitely going to paint that room, and I'm going to, swap out the curtains in that room, and I'm going to totally gut the kitchen, and I'm going to do all these things to make it my own. And 5 years into owning the house, they maybe painted one room, right? Similarly, a buyer wants to know that there's tremendous opportunity to grow the business. And they may or may not execute on those opportunities that are there, but they want to know that there are opportunities to do even more with the business than the current owner. And as I said, it's very often that as owners own their business for a long, long time, they don't execute on those opportunities. So here are some, just, there may be opportunities with different customer bases, new products, different marketing strategies. And right here, yeah, I thought this one was great. This is a bridal shop that's offered, and here are the growth and expansion opportunities. And I thought they did a great job. Right now, they're just selling bridal gowns, but a new owner could get into mother of the bride, bridesmaids. They could expand the hours. Somebody that was kind of really go will get them kind of, sorry. So that's an example. Oh, new message. Kim, you're great. Hey, we're at school. Thanks. No, I was not, but thank you very much. I appreciate that. Post-sale support, obviously a smooth transition is critical. It's more relevant for some businesses than others. It could be that it's, you get a month of in-person support at, I don't know, 10 hours a week, and then it goes to 4 hours of virtual support a week. And it is definitely something that can be negotiated. When I bought my business, the owner was very, very specific around the level of support that they were willing to provide, because I think that they were afraid that I would be calling them 45 times a day, right? And the flip side is, when I sold my business, I offered them quite a bit of support and they weren't interested. So it varies greatly. Area information. We didn't go through demographics on buyers just because we're doing a little bit of an abbreviated, but 2/3, I think I have the 2/3 of buyers are not from the area. And so not only do you want to sell your business, you want to sell the region. Obviously, you need to include contact information. If you are marketing your business anonymously, you want to perhaps establish a Skype number that's not your phone number. I think I realized, yeah. You may want to set up a separate email address and go through that. We kind of talk about this a little bit. I'll address it here really quickly because we're starting to run out of time, and I may just share marketing for our next session. We talked about financing and trying to understand as early in the process as possible if your potential buyer has the skills and abilities to buy your business, but as important, if not more important, are they financially able to buy your business? And when you have your sell sheet and you're marketing your business, you can ask somebody that responds to your whatever marketing avenue you're using, please share with me your down payment capabilities, the revenue volume that you're looking for, etc. So that, again, out of the gate, you're vetting buyers and not wasting time. Oh, here's some great examples, really. So this is one that I put together, but I'm going to share with you in a minute one that Jenna put together that's like puts mine to shame for sure. So asking price, revenue. I'll send this to you so that, not that it's all that spectacular, but just in my opinion, an example of a sell sheet that I thought was pretty good. And I was going to go through some pictures are critical if you're marketing your business anonymously. Obviously, you need more zoomed in pictures, so it's harder to tell your business. But let me go. How do I get back over here? Yes, here we go. Now this is Jenna's. I think she went to Canva and did this. And she must have been a graphic designer in a previous life, because she did a great job. And conveniently located. I'll share both of these with you so that you can get a sense of just how. how you can put a great sell sheet together. So marketing your business, we'll touch upon this in our next session. There are some great online opportunities that are there that you can use for not a ton of money. Just how you do it and what you do. Let's see, go through this. I think yeah, all right. So our valuation working sessions, one is tomorrow. Oh, I'm here, let me get through this now. Tomorrow from 11 to 12, and we will go through, and depending upon which, it's going to be kind of a organic session. We'll do some screen sharing. We'll talk through normalizing the expenses and then how that translates to the different tabs in the spreadsheet. I did share that with you. I shared a video as well on Monday, just kind of a brief video of how you use it. But we'll obviously do an interactive session either Friday or Tuesday, up to you guys, whether or not you want to do that. This is, we're not in school, but what I would love for you all to do is, you have your businesses, just take a half an hour and go through and create a sell sheet for your business and start to think about, you can make this up, right? Like, it's your business. I gave you a profile, but just start thinking in lines of how you would market your business and how you would showcase its strengths. And again, you can make the strengths up, but just starting to, and then share them with me, and we'll go through and either make improvements or suggestions. Yes. So our next session is March 24th, God willing. I don't have anything scheduled for then, from 9 to 11. We'll do a similar format where we'll have our quick fire call. We'll kind of talk through different things going on. And our next session is going to be, you've done all this work to create a valuation for your business. You have a serious buyer that comes along. What are the next steps? What are different financing options? And you guys are obviously more versed in financing than the average business seller, but we'll kind of talk through it and just see what questions you have. Speaking of that, we have, I think, 1 minute left. Any questions, comments? You can put them in the chat. Is this what you thought it was going to be? Is it too much detail, not enough detail? Again, we have 9 sessions together. I want to make sure that we are delivering the material in a fashion that works for everybody, that it's as engaging as possible, and that we're meeting your needs and expectations. Anybody?
So Kim, just to confirm, we're meeting tomorrow.
Yep, you can if you want. It's what did I say? Tomorrow from 11 to 12.
Yep.
Yep.
And then Tuesday, and then our normal call is the end of the month.
Yep, and it's your option to participate in either tomorrow or Tuesday if you want to go through and kind of learn more about the valuation process.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
I'll send this afternoon. I'll send some of those sample sell sheets so that you have some examples, and I'll send out the information about those. March 31st. Huh. Okay. Well, let me clarify. Steve, thanks for that. And I think it's usually, this is where I need Danny, because Danny usually does this. It's a set Thursday in the month, and I'll just make sure that we're doing that. So
it's typically the last Thursday.
Last Thursday. Okay, so it must be more Thursdays since it's on the 31st. Okay, my mistake. It's the 31st, and somebody had asked if I could send out Google invitations for all of the sessions, and my preference is just to send out the next, but I will send that out for everybody. And sounds like that's it for comments and questions. Thank you, everybody, for participating.